Your Italian grandmother never measured a single ingredient. In 1952, a Milanese housewife could transform yesterday's stale bread into 3 different meals using nothing but olive oil and intuition. No recipe cards, no YouTube tutorials, just knowledge passed through flour-dusted hands and whispered instructions. Number 12 on this list turned kitchen scraps into restaurant-quality pasta sauce in under 10 minutes. Number 6 required only leftover risotto and produced what modern chefs charge £18 for at trendy trattorias. Here's what the processed food industry doesn't want you to understand. These women weren't just cooking, they were alchemists. The supermarket freezer aisle has 47 Italian ready meals now. Your nonna needed her hands and a wooden spoon. Before we start, hit subscribe because what you're about to learn could revolutionize your kitchen forever. Let's count down the 15 Italian cooking secrets that vanished when we stopped trusting our instincts. Number 15. The bread resurrection method. Italian housewives knew stale bread wasn't trash, it was potential. Rock-hard bread became the foundation for rustic panzanella salads, hearty ribollita soups, and the perfect coating for cutlets. The technique was precise, soaking day-old bread in cold water just until pliable but not soggy. 2-day-old bread was perfect for soups, while week-old crusts were transformed into golden breadcrumbs. Nothing wasted, everything transformed. What's now a £12 rustic bread salad at trendy restaurants was simply yesterday's leftovers reimagined with intuition. Number 14. The garlic oil foundation. Every great Italian dish began the same way, garlic slowly warming in olive oil. This wasn't a quick sauté, it was a ritual. Nonnas never used timers, they used their senses. The moment garlic released its aroma was the moment to proceed, never a second before. Rush this step and the entire meal suffered. Ligurian techniques called for barely golden garlic, while Sicilian methods allowed for deeper caramelization. This single, patient foundation created endless flavor profiles that no jarred sauce can replicate. Number 13. The pasta water gold. While modern cooks drain pasta and rinse away its starchy water, Italian grandmothers treated this cloudy liquid like treasure. They knew this starchy water was the secret to making sauces cling perfectly to pasta without adding cream or butter. A ladle of pasta water could rescue a separated sauce instantly. The technique involved finishing pasta directly in the saucepan with a splash of this liquid gold, creating an emulsion that coated every strand. What modern chefs are rediscovering, Italian grandmothers never forgot. Number 12. The 10-minute tomato transformation. Kitchen scraps became sauce faster than you could open a jar. The method required precise heat, hot enough to concentrate flavors, but never hot enough to scorch. Fresh herbs entered at 3 strategic moments. Woody herbs like rosemary at the beginning, leafy herbs like basil at the end, and others midway. The wooden spoon test, drawing it across the bottom of the pan to see how quickly the sauce filled the space, determined perfect consistency. This single method, with slight variations, created marinara, puttanesca, and arrabbiata sauces using whatever was at hand. Number 11. The leftover risotto magic. Yesterday's risotto wasn't just reheated, it was transformed. Cold risotto, with its naturally sticky texture, formed the perfect base for crispy arancini. The technique involved rolling risotto around cheese or vegetable scraps, then coating in breadcrumbs. Temperature was judged by the breadcrumb test. Drop a few crumbs in oil. If they sizzle immediately without burning, the oil is ready. These golden treasures used whatever needed using up, a bit of mozzarella, leftover spinach, or yesterday's peas. What trendy restaurants charge premium prices for began as clever leftover management. Number 10. The herb preservation system. Long before refrigeration was commonplace, Italian housewives developed methods to preserve herbs year-round. Some were dried hanging upside down in cool, dark places. Others were frozen in ice cube trays with olive oil. The salt packing method preserved herbs like basil and parsley, intensifying their flavors while extending shelf life for weeks. Every Italian kitchen had its windowsill garden, providing year-round seasoning. These preserved herbs delivered stronger flavor than anything available in modern supermarkets. Here's where things get clever. The techniques we've covered so far were about making the most of what you had, but Italian grandmothers understood something modern cooking has forgotten entirely. Flavor doesn't come from expensive ingredients or complicated techniques. It comes from understanding how heat, time, and intuition work together. Every trick from here on builds on this principle, that the simplest methods often produce the most extraordinary results. Number 9. The meat stretching mastery. In post-war Italy, meat was precious and used sparingly. A single piece of pancetta flavored an entire pot of beans. The soffritto, slowly cooked carrots, celery, and onions, created a base that made vegetable dishes taste mysteriously meaty. Italian ragu used far less meat than modern recipes, yet tasted infinitely richer. The secret was slow cooking that transformed tough cuts into silk. Bones, marrow, and cartilage created depth without expensive ingredients. These women could feed a family of 8 with meat that would barely serve 2 by modern standards. Number 8. The cheese rind treasury. Parmigiano rinds were never discarded, but hoarded like gold. These seemingly worthless scraps transformed simple broths into complex restaurant-quality bases when simmered slowly. The rinds released their savory depth, creating an umami-rich foundation for soups and sauces. Nonnas stored these rinds wrapped in cloth, where they would keep for months. What modern chefs pay premium prices for, grandmothers collected for free and transformed with patience. Number 7. The vegetable timing symphony. Italian cooking wasn't just about ingredients, but about when each entered the pan. Onions always first, sweating slowly until translucent. Carrots next, then celery, the holy trinity building complex flavors layer by layer. This wasn't measured by time, but by transformation. The moment onions became translucent, the second carrots softened. This intuitive approach meant recipes changed with seasons, with technique rather than rigid instructions guiding the way. Number 6. The leftover risotto transformation. Cold risotto starch content changes overnight, creating the perfect base for crispy cakes. The technique involved forming small patties, then coating them in egg and breadcrumbs before pan frying until golden. The interior remained creamy, while the exterior became perfectly crisp. Italian grandmothers knew this dish actually tasted better than fresh risotto, with a textural contrast impossible to achieve with freshly made rice. Modern trattorias charge £18 for what was originally brilliant waste prevention. Number 5. The sauce rescue method. No sauce was ever beyond saving. A broken oil-based sauce could be rescued with pasta water and vigorous stirring. The technique required understanding temperature, too hot and emulsification separated, too cold, and they never came together. The wrist motion for stirring wasn't random but deliberate. A figure 8 that incorporated air and water into oil without mechanical devices. This knowledge prevented waste and created silky perfection using nothing but intuition and a wooden spoon. Notice how none of these techniques required special equipment or expensive ingredients. Italian grandmothers worked with cast iron pans, wooden spoons, and ingredients that cost pennies. Yet they created flavors that modern restaurants struggle to replicate with professional kitchens and imported ingredients. The secret wasn't in what they had, it was in what they understood about how food actually works. Number 4. The egg pasta perfection. Flour and eggs became silk without pasta machines. The technique involved creating a well of flour, gradually incorporating eggs with fingertips until the dough reached the perfect elasticity. They knew it was ready not by time, but by feel, when the dough felt like an earlobe, neither too stiff nor too sticky. Rolling achieved paper-thin sheets using nothing but a wine bottle, working from the center outward with perfect pressure. This handmade pasta had a texture no machine can replicate, slightly irregular, capturing sauce in ways uniform pasta cannot. Number 3. The tomato concentration secret. Summer tomatoes were preserved at their peak through sun-drying, laid out on wooden boards, sprinkled with salt to draw out moisture while preserving essential oils. This natural concentration process created intense flavor bombs that lasted through winter, stored in olive oil. The depth of flavor in these preserved tomatoes contained umami complexity that modern processing methods destroy. 3 of these tomatoes could flavor an entire pot of sauce, their intensity bearing little resemblance to the watery greenhouse varieties in modern supermarkets. Number 2. The broth-building foundation. Nothing was wasted in creating the foundation of Italian cuisine. Broth, vegetable scraps, chicken backs, and beef bones transformed into liquid gold through patient simmering. Bones were roasted first, developing complex flavor before slow extraction in water. The technique required constant attention, skimming impurities to achieve the crystal clear, intensely flavored broth that elevated every dish it touched. This foundation wasn't an ingredient, it was the canvas on which culinary masterpieces were built. Number 1. The intuitive seasoning mastery. Italian grandmothers never measured seasonings, they tasted their way to perfection. Salt came first, followed by acid from lemon or vinegar, then heat if needed. The balance happened in real time, through constant tasting and adjusting. Recipes were merely suggestions, guidelines rather than rules. Seasoning wasn't sprinkled from above, but distributed through practiced hand movements that ensured even distribution. This intuition passed down through observation, not written instruction, knowledge transferred through generations of watching, tasting, and learning. Pick 3 of these techniques and try them this week. The garlic oil foundation takes 5 minutes. The pasta water rescue costs nothing. The bread resurrection uses what you were throwing away anyway. These weren't just cooking methods, they were wisdom. Your nonna raised families on ingredients that cost less than a single meal delivery today, yet created flavors that modern restaurants can't replicate with industrial equipment. She wasn't just cooking, she was preserving culture, one perfectly seasoned dish at a time. Now you know what she knew. The only question is what you're going to do about it.